Hi, my name is Riven and this is my journal ecosystem. Oh my god, it just started raining. This is our first rain of the season. It's the summer solstice. It's a nice, cozy day. I've got myself a little coffee. I'm just gonna go look at the rain for a second and I will be right back. This is my journal ecosystem. I recently started calling it that because that's the name it has online, and I think it's a really nice name. Before that, I used to call my system Chaos Journaling. I have always been this way. And a few years ago, like I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, I made this little house for my journals out of a recycled cat food box. I've decorated it with a wrapper from a chocolate, which has a Van Gogh painting on it, corridor in the asylum, which I think is really fitting for everything that goes on inside these pages. First and foremost, I have the most important book in this entire thing, which is my diary. I've been keeping a diary since I was about 10 years old, and if my house was on fire and all of my cats and the people were safe, I would go to my gigantic collection of diaries that I have over the years. And if I couldn't get to the entire collection, I would probably go to this one. It's just some generic book from Venus. I thought it looked cute. It has a little pen holder, and I made this little charm out of friend of the channel, Shruti jewelry making kit. I think it's really cute. This sticker is something that my mom got from somewhere. I don't really remember. Journaling is probably my most important habit. It's a habit that I've had pretty much my entire life. And at the moment, this is my therapy. Like, this is the reason I'm sane. This is where I go when I feel good, when I feel bad. I definitely don't write in it every day. I've had this particular journal since March, and I've been writing in this one very frequently. But generally, I keep my journal sometimes for years and years on end. Like the one I had read before this, I had been using for 3 years, between 2023 and 2026. So 2.5 years. Um, and I'm really not the kind of person who feels the need to finish journals really quickly, nor am I the kind of person who buys more books than I need, which I think is really great. So all of the books I have, I use, and I use them at whatever pace I want. If you're the kind of person who like feels pressured by a journal, I would just like to tell you it's in your head. Nobody's pressuring you to write consistently or at all. And there are no rules. Like you can truly journal however you want to. I could talk about this forever, but I don't want to make this video super long. So I'm gonna move on to the next book. The next book in my ecosystem is my planner, my to-do list diary thing. This is again like it's you can see it's really worn, it's really tattered, and I picked it up from Venus or Crossword or something really randomly. I've realized it's not my favorite. Like the size and the shape and the width of it really does not fit my needs. However, painted edges. So I will not complain about it henceforth. But I just use this for to do lists pretty much, only to do lists and scheduling things. I used to be really good about making a little calendar at the beginning of each month. I don't do that anymore because you know what? My journal, my rules. And I also started this back in 2024. So this is now my second year going on this book, and it's like barely, I've only used about this much of it in 2 years. So this book is going to be with me for a long time, and I don't mind. I really like having long stretches of time in one book because you can just look back on so much more of your life when it's that way rather than frequently replacing your books, which is also fine. It's just not something that works for me. The next thing is my sketchbook. I talked about this in my January video, so if you're interested in hearing more about that, you should check out that video. Again, I have a little matching charm on this that I made with Shruti's jewelry kit, and it matches my journal, which I find really special. This is actually a Venus brand, like Venus store brand sketchbook. It's pretty good. You would be surprised. My phone ran out of storage. I really need to deal with that. It happens too often. Anyway, um, my favorite thing about the sketchbook is honestly the cover. Everything inside is absolute garbage, but better to have a sketchbook and it be garbage than to have a perfect sketchbook that doesn't exist. So, these are three books that do not live in my journal house. They live in my bag and they come with me almost everywhere I go. If nothing else, I will be carrying around my journal all the time. This one, I haven't carried it around in the past, but this one is the perfect size. It fits in every bag I own. I won't buy a bag. I mean, I don't buy bags, but if I were to buy a bag, I would only buy one that fits this journal. And I write in it, I sketch in it, I love this book an ungodly amount. And I think it's also because it has a cat sticker on it. Moving on to the books that I use very infrequently. These books live in this. Like, this is their house, and they've lived here for years and years. I call this book my brain gym. It just collects any information I gathered about any topics that I'm interested in, particularly geography, geology, languages. French and Dutch are languages that I like learning. Sometimes I write really micro stories in here, which are like just a page long. If they're any longer than a page, then they go in a different book, which I will get to in just a second. But oh, thunder, do you hear that? Monsoon is here, guys. I'm so excited. It's a B5 book from Muji. I freaking love Muji. I use Muji all the time. I wish I had a real, like, an in real life store. But every time I go to Bombay, I hightail it to Muji. Sometimes I go to Bombay just for Muji. That's not true, but it could be true. That's how much I really like Muji. And these books are really cheap. Everything else in Muji is really expensive, but these books are 150 rupees, and oh my god, they are worth every single rupee. I love them so much. Speaking of stories, this is my short story book. A majority of my writing I do on my computer, but I am for the past several years. When I say currently, I mean since about 2024. Don't take my currently very seriously. I am at the moment working on a sapphic horror short story thing, and that just feels wrong to write on my computer. I have to write that one by hand with a fountain pen. And this book is from Mr. DIY. Ideally, I don't go for ruled books at all. I prefer grids or blank. But if they are going to be ruled, then I need the lines to be really, really faint, which is really nice in this book. And this was again like 129 rupees. This book is the newest edition, and it's actually the book that made me want to make this video. It's my grimoire because, of course, I'm someone who has a grimoire. However, it's not the traditional grimoire. I kind of use this just to store Ayurvedic recipes that work for me. This last one is a book that's really important to me. This was a gift from my thesis advisor in my final year of undergrad. I look up to her immensely. And she gave this to me because my undergrad thesis went to a conference, and this is now my research book. It's the book where I store my ideas, my research questions, and sometimes research plans in here where I just write a little bit about the purpose of the study, the sample. Sometimes when I'm falling asleep, these ideas come to me and I don't want to forget them, so I just write them down over here. What's really special to me, obviously, since it's research topics, it's not a book that I'm going to get through very quickly. So this is another one of those books that I hope to keep throughout my career so that I can look back on the ideas that I thought were good in my undergrad, that maybe when I'm doing my PhD or something else, I don't know, maybe I find them silly, or maybe I have struck gold and maybe I've had a really great idea early on. I don't know. I just love the idea of this being with me throughout my entire career, especially because it is inscribed. My professor wrote a little congratulations and good luck on your journey inscription on the first page, which just makes it all the more special to me. That was my journal ecosystem. I was watching someone else's journal ecosystem, and there were two questions in the comments that were asked that I also wanted to talk about. One is, what do you do with your journals once you've used them? And I archive them. I have a whole shelf in my bookshelf which has all of my journals that I've ever had, and I just put the start date and the end date on the cover, and I store them away. I do go through them every now and then, but I don't have to. You can throw them away, dude. Like, it's truly up to you. And the second thing is, how do you get over the fear of someone reading your journal? That is, either it's a really valid fear or it's a really silly fear, depending on your situation. If you live in a situation where people might read your journal, maybe don't keep it in a book. Maybe write it down on pieces of paper and burn it if you have to. Nobody said you have to keep it. The rules are yours. If it's something that's really holding you back and you really want to journal, here's a really radical homework idea. Journal and then give it to someone to read and see what happens. Because I have had my journal read. I think my entire family has probably read my journal when I was a kid, and it has not affected me at all. But that's also because my family is pretty chill. However, the fear part of it, like, I used to also be afraid of people reading my journal, and then they did, and like, it's fine, nothing happened, it's okay. I know that that's a really scary thing to ask someone to do, but if that's something that appeals to you, if you really, really want to get over the fear, write something in your journal, give it to your best friend who you know is not going to judge you, and just see, like, there's nothing to be afraid of. If there's anything you write that you don't want people to read, you can redact it, you can tear that page out, you can throw it away, or you can just keep it and hope for radical acceptance from yourself and from others. But I think it is really important to keep a journal. I think it's really important to write. Someone really wise told me just yesterday, in fact, that if I tell you to do a sum in your head, if I tell you to do 9 times 3, you can probably do it pretty easily. But if I ask you to say multiply 5,417 by 12, what are you going to do? You're not going to be able to do it in your head. You're probably going to need a pen and paper. When the problems are small, you can do them in your head. But when the problems are big, you go to a pen and paper. And if you do that for math, why wouldn't you do that for everything else? And this is a completely stolen allegory. I'll have you know, I don't even know if it's an allegory. English people, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But I am I really promote the journaling propaganda, and I thought this was brilliant. It's so true. My journal is my best friend. Like, I tell my journal things that I don't tell anybody else. It's a place where I can be so extremely honest in a way that I can't even do myself if I don't have a book to write it in. Most importantly, it's a way of witnessing yourself, and it is important that you remember your life and you take the space that you need for yourself. You are going to live with yourself for the rest of your life, and a journal is a perfect accompaniment for that. Well, that's enough out of me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I inspired you to pick up a pen. Okay, bye bye.